New York City, the epicenter of global commerce, draped in holiday lights and the promise of Christmas cheer. But beneath the Rockefeller Center glamour, a grim, silent countdown is underway. As winter descends, tens of thousands of unsheltered New Yorkers face a brutal reality: exposure, illness, and potential death. This documentary asks the uncomfortable question: in a city that legally guarantees the right to shelter, why are its streets and subway tunnels still home to a massive, visible homeless crisis in 2025? The contrast is stark. The moral indictment is clear. The light of the holidays shines brightest on the dark failure of the system. New York is unique. It is the only major US city with a legal mandate to provide immediate shelter to anyone who needs it. This landmark policy, while rooted in compassion, has become overwhelmed by the confluence of the opioid crisis, the post-pandemic mental health breakdown, and an unprecedented housing shortage. The system is operating at maximum capacity, yet the solution remains a revolving door: temporary, often dangerous shelter spaces that fail to address addiction or mental illness. Consequently, thousands choose the subways and streets over the established system, finding the unpredictability of the outside world preferable to the chaos and rigid bureaucracy of the municipal shelter system. The lethal urgency of winter transforms the crisis from a chronic social issue into an immediate mass casualty threat. Hypothermia, severe respiratory illnesses, and frostbite become daily dangers. The city's inadequate response forces its most vulnerable citizens into the freezing subway tunnels and ventilation shafts, hidden, unsanitary, and inaccessible places where death often arrives silently and alone. The failure to provide appropriate, climate-controlled, low-barrier shelter is not just negligence, it is a profound ethical failure to protect lives when the environment itself becomes the executioner. The discomfort felt by millions during the holiday season is a microscopic fraction of the suffering endured by those without a roof. The municipal shelter system is often criticized for its rigid rules: no partners, no pets, strict curfew, and zero tolerance for substance use. These rules, while meant to maintain order, become insurmountable barriers for a population dealing with severe opioid or meth addiction, trauma, and chronic loneliness. Consequently, the established shelters only serve a fraction of the population, while the majority, the most chaotic and vulnerable, remain outside. The solution is not merely building more beds, but building specialized, low-barrier stabilization centers that allow people to stay with their partners, pets, and, crucially, offer immediate medical triage for addiction and mental health, making the path inside the system easier than staying on the freezing streets. The failure to provide appropriate shelter is an economic disaster. Studies consistently show that managing chronic street homelessness through emergency services, police, ambulance, ER visits, hypothermia treatment costs New York taxpayers significantly more than providing permanent supportive housing, the housing first model. Every dollar spent on emergency response is a dollar taken away from effective, long-term solutions. The city is making a financially absurd choice, funding the crisis indefinitely rather than funding the solution once. The uncomfortable truth is that the problem persists not because the city lacks money, but because the political will to overcome NIMBYism, not in my backyard, and mandate supportive housing construction in wealthy areas is politically risky and often absent. The ethical confrontation of Christmas brings this moral failure into sharp, painful focus. While New York celebrates compassion and giving, thousands are facing the very real threat of freezing to death just blocks from lavishly decorated avenues. This juxtaposition is the ultimate ethical confrontation. The right to shelter is meaningless if the shelter system is structured to fail the most vulnerable, effectively forcing them back into a lethal environment. The question before the city is a moral one. Before the new year, will political leaders choose the easy path of police sweeps and fixes? Or will they make the fundamental, multi-billion-dollar commitment to human dignity required to honor the spirit of the law, not just its letter? The immediate solution for the New York winter crisis is clear: unconditional, low-barrier, climate-controlled shelter. This demands converting unused city properties into specialized centers that operate 24/7, accept couples and pets, and provide immediate medical triage for drug and mental health stabilization. The goal must shift from judging those seeking help to simply stabilizing them and saving their lives from the elements. This is a public health mandate, not a political debate. The moral choice is between funding the construction of safe, warm spaces now or funding the morgue and emergency room later. The New York homeless crisis before Christmas is a stark, public referendum on our collective conscience. The right to shelter must become the right to live. We must reject the punitive bureaucracy that treats the most vulnerable with indifference. The time for convenient silence is over. Share this documentary to expose the failure of New York's shelter system before winter claims more lives. Subscribe to America's Uncomfortable Truth as we continue to hold the system accountable for the systemic flaws that drain our cities of both resources and human life.